Ryan, go ahead.
All right, we're good.
Ryan, do you mind if I just kick it off quickly and then I'll turn it over to you?
Yeah.
I just, because it's kind of the first meeting of this committee being a regular committee. So Ryan, who is the former chair of our ad hoc committee, he's going to chair the meeting until item 5.A. So with that, I'll kick it back to Ryan. And we'll do introductions too under 5A.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes from October? Any changes or additions?
One quick note, I think I put approved at the end of the minutes. They're not approved yet. That was a mistake. So once they're approved, I will I'll make that change. So yep.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. If there aren't any changes, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from October?
I move approval.
All right, can I have a second? All right, and Emily seconds. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, approval of minutes passes. The next item on the agenda is public appearances for non-agenda items. Is that you, Joe?
I don't have any appearances for non-agenda items. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think before we move to the agenda item, it will be nice if we can, the new member can be introduced.
Yeah, Julie, I was going to handle that under 5A, but we can do it now too.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Why don't we just go ahead and go to the agenda review, and then we'll introduce folks. Okay, everyone get a chance to take a look at the agenda for today. Any changes, additions?
Done by staff.
Okay, sounds good. Do we just go, we don't approve that, right?
Nope, we can just move.
Okay, just go ahead. Okay. All right, next on the agenda items. So introductions.
And I'll maybe kick it off. I think I know most folks are probably met via email, but I'm Wade Thompson, staff liaison to this committee. Glad to be here. It's been kind of a not a long road to get here, but the committee is now a standing committee. We were ad hoc, which means some expanded roles and tasks, and we'll talk about what that means. And then just quickly, I'll turn it over to the committee members, but I just want to kind of talk about the appointment of committee chair and vice chair. In terms of what those duties entail, they don't entail much. Ryan could probably speak to the chair's duties, but basically it's kind of running the meeting. Occasionally I will check in with the chair before the meeting just to make sure if there's anything to discuss that we're all on the same page. Vice chair basically just serves as chair if the chair isn't present, basically runs the meeting. I believe the chair and vice chair are 2-year terms. So every 2 years, this committee would either re-elect the current chair and vice chair. I think there might be a 2-term limit, or certainly could elect a new chair and vice chair. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Estrella, a resident of Fitchburg, but also I work during the day. I work for Joining Forces for Families, which is a program through Dane County Human Services, and I'm a social worker in the Allied Drive community, where one of these neighborhoods borders, and I've been acting as chair for the past few years. And that's it.
Do you want to kick it to someone else, Ryan?
Oh, I'm sorry. Emily, you want to go next?
Sure thing. So I'm Emily Bourne. I live in Fitchburg as well.
And during the day, I work for the state in the Department of Administration in their supportive housing unit.
All right, thanks, Emily. Katie, you want to go next?
Oh, you're good. Okay, this is all new to me. My name's Katie. I am also a resident of Fitchburg, and during the day, I am a student at UW-Madison, and I am pursuing a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine and a Master of Public Health, and I'm super excited to be starting on this committee.
Awesome, thanks, Katie. Can we go to you all there, Julia?
Hi, everyone. This is Julia Ratafrata. I am an alder for the city of Fitchburg, representing District 2. And the new part of District 2 has a healthy neighborhood. So I am very happy because now I have that in my district. So during the day, I work for Wagner CPAs as an advisory client in accounting and taxes. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And just a few more points on that. We have one other committee member, Jay Allen, who is, I don't believe is present tonight. Jay is an alder as well. And then I believe we're working on another appointment that'll hopefully be appointed in the next month or so. And then we still are short, assuming that appointment goes through, we'll still be short one member. And that is a member from the North Fish Hatch neighborhood. So if folks are aware of anyone that lives or works in that neighborhood, I guess you have to be a resident. So either lives there or lives and works in the neighborhood. Certainly encourage them to, to apply for this committee. And with that, Ryan, I think we could probably go ahead and seek appointments of committee chair and vice chair.
Okay, yeah. How does that happen? We just, someone nominates?
Yeah, I can nominate. Can I do a nomination?
Yeah, go ahead, Julia.
I will nominate Ryan as the chair and also Emily as the co-chair.
So I was talking to Wade about this earlier. I think I'm gonna step down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the reason is, and I don't know if should I give a reason?
No.
I just, just being my role as a social worker and for Joining Forces for Families, I tend to work with a lot of these nonprofits, and I just worry about relationships getting tricky. Also, there are other JFF social workers that are in many of these communities, or in all of these communities that we're talking about, and I kind of worry about the optics of that too. So I wouldn't mind, or I would be open to running for vice chair.
Okay.
If someone wants to run for chair, and then if something happens, I can run the meeting. If that person is.
Okay, yep. So I will nominate Emily as a chair and you as a vice chair. Is that okay?
For me, actually, I thank you so much for the nomination. I really appreciate it. I think right now, though, like I have a lot on my plate, and I don't think I could take on anything more.
Okay, so I need to state, alders cannot be chairs, okay? So between the three of you, decided.
do you want to know? Does anyone want to know a little bit about? The chair doesn't. What I do is I take a look at the agenda and kind of review the materials probably an hour before the meeting. It's not extremely challenging. And then I try to break up any arguments that happen, keep the conversation going. But it's not really difficult if anyone is interested.
I also have a lot on my plate, and I'm completely new to this. So I feel like I would not be qualified to be chair or co-chair, but I can help out. I mean, we need to have someone, right?
Yes, and I don't think way
Yeah.
that alders can be chair. No, no in this committee, no.
Yeah. And again, to reiterate Ryan's point, the chair is,
Yeah.
it's really running the meeting. I mean, there's no, in Ryan's 3 years as chair, I've probably emailed him 3 or 4 times ahead of time, and it's been, very minimal commitment besides running the meeting. But so I'll throw that out there.
Okay. Well, if it is truly like not a super list, then I would feel comfortable doing
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
So I'll second Alder Julia's nomination. Can I do that if I'm vice? If I'm running
okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
somebody else should do it just as a precaution, if someone else wants a second.
I can second.
Okay. So now you have to say all those in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And do I vote in this or no? I'm
Yes,
assuming
you
no.
can vote.
Oh, okay. Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Okay.
motion passes. So take it over, Emily. We just got to go through the agenda items.
Yeah. So, well, actually, we have to motion for vice chair, right?
Oh, is
So-
that separate? Okay.
I don't know. I was assuming.
I think Julia
What do you
made the
think,
motion.
Wade?
I think Julia made the motion for a chair and vice chair, and you guys okay with approving it in one motion? I think that's fine.
I am.
So who's vice chair?
Okay, I think we approved it then.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. So then so then we're going on to, sorry, I'm just bringing up the agenda. Number 5B, committee tasks and duties. Wait, did you want to take it?
Yep, I can certainly do that. Hopefully folks can see my screen, and I apologize. I know for a lot of folks, this will be review. Katie's our one new member, so I'll try to, make sure Katie's up to speed, but also not bore the rest of you with a lot of repetition. But I think most folks generally know why you're here. I do want to kind of speak a little bit to our strategic plan, which we adopted back in 2019. And that to me is really kind of the guiding document for the HNI. Now, up until this point, our committee was focused on one aspect of the HNI, and that was the grant program. With the formation of this committee as being what we call a regular committee, the committee scope is now expanded to include everything under the HNI umbrella. And I think to kind of talk about that, I'll refer back to the plan. And again, this plan is on our website. I think folks have probably read through it to some degree, but I just want to quickly touch on what I think is the meat of the plan, and that's the action items. So bear with me here. Maybe I'll back up actually, and just to make sure we understand, kind of what we're talking about in terms of areas. Basically 3 neighborhoods, all in the city's northern tier, southerly adjacent to the city of Madison. So moving west to east, we've got the Verona Road area. We've got kind of the Allied Drive area, traditionally known as Allied Drive. We call it Belmar Renaissance on the Park. And then we've got our North Fishhatchee Road neighborhood. So those are our 3 neighborhoods under the initiative, and we call them priority neighborhoods.
Keep going, try again.
Wade, can
Yep.
I ask a question? So I was just wondering how the annex of the town of Madison will affect those neighborhoods.
Good point. Let me go back to the map. So that's another reason I'm glad this committee is now a regular committee, because when we get Southdale, I'm assuming that, that will go through in October of this year, that will become a 4th H&I neighborhood. So I don't have a good map of that, but, to the west here, or to the east, excuse me, we'll be getting a little bit of the town of Madison, known as the Southdale neighborhood, and that will become a 4th H&I neighborhood. So yeah, good question. And then moving back to action items, I'll just quickly kind of talk about some of the categories. So I like alliteration. So in the HNI, I talk about the 3 Ps. In this plan, we use the word promotion, programs and places. As the initiatives evolved, I've replaced the promotion P with a people P, and we'll talk more about that. But essentially, we have about 16 action items under kind of the 3P categories. I'm not going to get into all of these, folks can read, but I do want to point out that we've made a lot of good progress on these action items. As I progress in my career and develop plans, I've come to realize the more specific, the more accountable you are with your action items, the better chance you have for success. So these action items are very specific, very prescriptive, and I think that's led to successful implementation of a lot of these items. So again, I won't get into all these, all these action items, but I just want to be clear that, in my opinion, the city is making really good progress on these action items. So with that, and I think what I'm gonna do now is show you something else here. And I think what I want to show you now is an annual report that I gave to our council. Pretty much every year, I get in front of our council and I give them an annual report, kind of letting them know how our initiative is progressing. We kind of started out as a pilot, but I think now it's really become embedded in terms of city policy and city initiatives. So I'm just again going to quickly breeze through this. Touching on some of the high points. Again, I kind of talked about the 3Ps, the 3Ps being people, programs, and places, and we'll talk, more about what that means. Again, the initiative, this is all in the plan, but it's about equity, it's about diversity, and it's about kind of being integrated, stable, and sustainable. And that leads to this idea of healthy neighborhoods in a economic, environmental, and social sense. Again, these are our 3 neighborhoods. To be 4, when we do get Town of Madison. Again, we adopted a strategic plan back in 2019. There's the 3Ps, and I'll add a 4th P, which I think kind of ties those 3 Ps together. And that's this idea of partnerships. So kind of talking about the first P of people. And I think folks are probably familiar with this program, but we do have what we call neighborhood navigators. Basically 2 part-time city employees that live in one of our neighborhoods that basically kind of serve as a link between residents and resources. Currently, we only have 1 navigator. We're trying to replace our 2nd. So again, if folks know of people that live in these neighborhoods that are, share world experiences with our residents in terms of cultural, competency, certainly, we'd be glad to entertain any applications for that open position. It is a part-time position. It is, a city employed position. They work about 15 hours a week. And I would kind of categorize their work tasks under 3 categories: bettering existing city services to neighborhood residents, building trust between neighborhood and the city, and influencing city policy or future city policy.
Wade, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that still, it's still posted, or it's still, okay?
Yeah, so we took it down. We had it posted for months, and I think we just weren't getting any feedback on it. So I'm trying to rethink how I can post it and get different results. So it currently isn't posted, but if we know of anyone that's interested, we can get that posted, ASAP. But I would think in the next month or so, I'll probably get it posted, again, and I'll let you guys know. But currently, yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it is posted. So, and then again, kind of what they've been at this for a couple of years now. They've connected with almost 900 neighborhood and city residents, and have built partnerships with various city and external partners. Moving on to the grant program. Again, this is kind of the core of why this committee was formed. And we'll talk more about that in the next couple of months. You guys will really focus on that. But really, to me, that grant program is about supporting our neighborhoods and, again, creating those partnerships. So this is just a snapshot of various organizations that we've funded. I think the program's been around for maybe since 2018, 2017. So various entities that we funded in those years. And I think generally speaking, demand for those funds always exceeds supply. You know, we could probably easily give out $100,000 every year and feel really good about giving those dollars out. Traditionally, we've given more around 60 to 70,000 per year. But again, just some context there. And this is just kind of a listing of, I guess this is 2020. We made 2021 awards as well that we just closed out. But again, this gives you kind of an idea of the folks that we fund in those neighborhoods. I guess there's the 2021 awards. We just closed those out. You guys will get a report on those projects probably the next couple of months, and then we'll work to make recommendations on 2022 awards again over the next couple of months as well.
Wade,
And the budget for 2022, is that 75? Is that right?
So I'm currently working on that. We have 63,000 from city budget in 2022. There will be some leftover funds from 2021, but I'm working with finance to confirm that amount.
Okay.
And then we will need to ultimately get those amounts approved for what we call rollover, meaning we can use them in 2022. I don't see any issues with that happening.
Okay.
But at our next meeting, I will have a number. I will have the final number of funds for this year. Yep.
Awesome.
were Little John's and the 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin, why are they in red?
Yeah, so those were, I'm trying to remember why I had those in red. I think we had people come and speak. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I mean, or they might have been new awards. I can't quite remember. But yeah, they weren't. It was a positive if I'm remembering correctly. So
I think they might have been new. Looking at
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I think there might have been some. Yeah, I can't remember, but I just called them out for some reason. I know it was a positive reason. So
Yeah, they were really unique programs, right? Like Little John's was like to get like a piece of machinery, right, that they could then help package food.
Yeah.
More easily have it distributed at food pantries, I believe.
Yep.
And then 1,000 Friends was like a community garden. That's
Yep,
just
that's
off
right.
the top of my head. So okay.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yep. Yeah, just feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions. Looks like I froze up here. Oh, there we go. And then kind of moving into the last P, and we'll talk more about this in terms of kind of the next agenda item with project updates. But, you know, as a planner, people and programs are incredibly important in our neighborhoods, but places are just important. You know, creating places worthy of the neighborhood and our residents. So places where people can congregate, socialize, recreate, and, you know, really do good things for the neighborhood and, you know, kind of build that sense of community. And we'll talk more about, you know, some of those place elements in our neighborhoods. And again, just kind of you know, the hit home message here is, you know, for this thing to continue to mature and grow as an initiative, it's about partnerships. You know, whether it's internal city staff, residents, or nonprofit service providers, it really is about creating and maintaining those partnerships. And then I think needs and wants, maybe I'll hold off on that for now. I think, I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but I think as we continue to meet this year, and as you guys, you know, kind of get more familiar with the broader H&I scope, I think I'll probably bring some of this stuff back to the forefront. And then when we start talking about city budgets every year, you know, I'd like to see this committee make recommendations for budget requests beyond just the grant program. You know, from a staff perspective, I see that being a kind of a key piece of this committee. So I guess with that, any questions on, you know, just kind of general committee tasks or duties kind of with this new committee setup?
Are there? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I ask a question, Emily?
Please.
I was just going to ask. So, being on this committee, are we limited in terms of how many years we can actually participate on a committee? No, okay.
Oh, basically, I think they're 2-year terms. And, basically I believe they're reappointed by the mayor. Usually the only time people leave a committee is by their choice. Certainly there's exceptions, but I don't see anyone on this committee leaving this committee not by their choice, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
So my other question is, when we talk about the committee task and duty, but also we need to talk about the scope of services of what we're planning to do with this, healthy neighborhood, what other things that we can do. We have the grant program. Now we have the hub is under the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. We have the teen center under this committee too, also in partnership with parks, for the hub. But my other question is about what other thing that we can do as a committee. I know that you are the only one person working in this staff way, and you can, you do a lot of things, for other departments. So, but I think we need to look at the long term.
Yep.
What are the services scope? What about this? Services scope. I have my Webner.
It's after 5.
Yeah, exactly. What are the scope about us? Because I would like to see also if in the future we can do a survey, determine how is the health of the people living in our community, how we can build up a healthy community, no neighborhood, a healthy community in general, you know what I mean? So, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, those are all great points. And I think, to me, this committee's guiding document is that strategic plan, and those action items. Certainly, it's hard to believe, but we're coming up on, well, we got a few years left, but that plan can be updated. It's a 5-year plan. So I think those are things that, that plan will be the guiding document for this committee. In the short term, and these are discussions we could have, we can start them now and continue them, over the next couple of months. But, being at this for a couple of years, I have some real specific needs and wants that I'd like to see this committee, look at. And, we can talk about them now or later, but, on the screen there, I'm sharing some. And number one, we've already done, the fact that we're here today as a regular committee, that box is checked. I'd like to figure out a way to grow that Navigator program. I've talked about that. I'd like to find, $60,000 a year for the grant program is great. But as I mentioned, we could easily get 100 every year and feel good about that, especially with Southdale coming on. The second slide here, the number one is a long-term vision. I think as a city grows and matures, there should be discussion, and I think there will be, about allocation of staffing and tasks and duties. This H&I has created new tasks and duties for this city, and I think they're all needed. But is the current staffing setup in the current department structure the most efficient way for this thing to maintain and evolve? So that's another idea. And then even to the point of talking about new positions to really grow this initiative. So these are just things I've been thinking about. But obviously, as you guys get your feet wet a little bit, or I know you probably already have ideas, Julia, and you mentioned some. But yeah, I am open to. I mean, it's the committee's decision, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. These are things that the committee, will discuss and agree upon, and then we'll direct staff to go out and do. So, yeah.
And also, other thing that we need to look forward is if there are grants there available to fund some of the initiatives from this committee, you know what I mean? So, but I know that, again, you are only one person split in different departments. Yep. But this is something that we need to consider also in the long term is when we define, okay, what are the scope, what else we want to cover, how we can fund some of the stuff with grants. And also, I regarding the Navigators, I think we need to have a better partnership with Dane County, and they should be providing more funding
Yeah.
for the Navigator. And I think maybe now that the city of Fitchburg is going to have 2 new supervisor in the Dane County Board of Supervisor, I think we need to build out the relation with those 2 new persons.
Yeah.
And determine how they can also work with us to provide the funding during county budget time, that they also allocate some funding for our needs too. So I think we need to, it will be great to invite these 2 persons in the future to one of our meetings, because they need to know about this program, because the money is at Dane County for many of the things that we want to do here, and we need to have that partnership with them.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. And the thing I've learned about the Navigator program is, in my opinion, managing the Navigator program to its fullest potential and managing the grant program to its fullest potential is a full-time job.
No, I know.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? And to be honest, I wish I could, in my opinion, the Navigator program needs a lot more oversight. And I don't have capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, I talk about some of this restructuring or reexamining of things. Again, this is long-term. This is, a 5 or 10 year vision, but yeah, I agree with everything you've said. It's just finding ways to, as we bring on new resources and new things, having capacity to manage and grow it in a way that's beneficial. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question regarding that? So in the document, the H&I document, it was stated that this was a 5-year plan from 2018 to 2023, and we're in 2022. And one of the things that I noticed was a future goal was to have it be independent from the city, or the funding be independent from the city. Is that like something that we're still moving towards as a committee, or is that not? I guess I'm just trying to understand that more.
Yeah. So, Kate, are you saying that we kind of talked about finding external funding sources for things? Yeah. I mean, I think that remains true to Julia's point, to the degree we can find grants, and that's still a goal. But I think some of these costs are becoming embedded in the city. And I think, our council has made an investment in this initiative. And I think part of that was anytime you create a new initiative from a staff perspective, you try to be creative and not imply additional legacy costs for the city. You always try to find those third parts. So I think that's how we started. But as our decision makers saw the value of this thing from a citywide perspective, they and Julia's, speak up here, they feel comfortable investing in it. And I think that's evidence in the fact that every year the grant money has stayed there, if not grown. And then, now we're talking about, these place elements like the hub, where the city is making substantial investments in places in these neighborhoods. The Navigator program is still strictly county money, but so I think we found a pretty good balance of, external sources, but also city dollars as well.
Yes, and the other thing that we try to do every year for budget time, this committee is we increase the funding up to $100,000, but the mayor, chop that amount, and it's always keep it at 50,000. So that one has been, because I really believe if we are a $22 million budget city, we should find easily $100,000 to fund this project. I believe in that. The money's there. We always go every budget time to increase the fund. And now last year, we really, for 2022 budget, our plan was to increase it even more because we have another neighborhood in October, in Southdale. But the 63,000 and all of that is because there's this residual money, because sometimes some of our partners didn't provide didn't finish with what they're supposed to do, so we don't reimburse the whole amount of money, or because of COVID, some projects we were not able to, some organizations were not able to provide some of the services. So the idea, yes, I firmly believe that we can do better. We can fund this with more money. And this is why when we discuss ARPA fund, and this, I will need all your support, because if you read the ARPA funding, the ruling is most of the money should be going to underserved areas. And we need to have a balance about how to use those funds between the external needs of the city that I call working on areas where we really need to invest, and the internal needs of the city, you know, investing in internal need, I call it like, you know, laptop or more COVID supply that we need for, you know, staff and, you know, all of that stuff. So I think we need to find a very good balance about how to use the money. And this is what one of my amendments that I'm gonna bring to ARPA is gonna be at least allocate $50,000 more for 23, 24, 25 to this, the grant award to the healthy neighborhood. This, you know, this is, I need to try to do something like that, because, you know, I think the money is for that.
Yeah.
But
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So by ARPA, I'm assuming you mean American Rescue Plan Act.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the city has not yet allocated that funding to anything, right? So it's still kind of up in the air of where it is. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was
Wade
understanding.
is going to explain where we are with the resolution, you know.
Yeah,
actually, so I don't want to go ahead, but yeah.
Actually, before we move off onto that topic, I did have a question about when the plan for the HNI would be updated again. So is it 2023, and then what is the process look like to update that?
Honestly, I mean, I haven't even thought about that yet.
Okay.
With my workload, you know, I think the plan was actually adopted in 2019.
Okay.
March of 2019. And then, so I guess 5 years from that would be what, 2024. So we got a little bit of time.
Okay.
Usually what I do when I've done a fair amount of plan updates, you know, usually the year of the update, we kind of start the process of thinking about it. So probably, let's say January 2024, we start on it. And in my opinion, you know, I think a lot of the background data, or a lot of the background stays the same. We'll probably update some of the neighborhood data, demographics, but I think that framework stays the same. And it's really about adjusting the action items, you know, figuring out what we can check off, what we can,
what we've done.
and then just adding new stuff or tweaking stuff, and maybe, you know, creating some level of priority for those action items. And again, I think given the scope of that project, given this committee, you know, I think we can knock out an update in, you know, 6 months-ish, 6 to 9. So I don't, you know, so yeah, something I'm kind of looking forward to, but I think we got a little bit of time. And I think, you know, over the next couple of years, we'll probably, you know, really start fleshing out, you know, what could those revised action items potentially look like. So, yep.
Joe, did you have a question?
So just wanted to inform the committee of this. There is something in our capital improvement plan. So for those who don't know, it's our 10-year sort of spending plan for the city in 2025, I believe, and beyond, to allocate additional $50,000 to the HNI program. So that's still in the CIP. The CIP gets updated every year, so, you know, it could possibly get removed. But I'm committed as long as I'm here to ensuring we have that bump.
That would be great.
Can I ask another clarifying question?
Sure.
So Wade, you'd mentioned that we have made a lot of progress on those action items. Is there any like document that tracks that progress, like to have a visual of where we are?
So all those 16 items, I could, you know, basically tell you where we're at with them. I mean, it's kind of all in my head. You know, I haven't been at, kind of every year when I do the annual report, you know, I kind of speak to that. So yeah, I guess it's more, I mean, we have it. It's not, you know, I don't have a spreadsheet. It's not that level of analysis that it needs that, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
All right. Any additional comments, questions before we move on? All right. Seeing none, agenda item 5C, updates on H&I projects. We kind of gave that. Did you have anything more, Wade, that you wanted to
yeah,
add?
I want to speak to two things, and then I'll let Alder Maldonado maybe speak to a third thing, and I'll probably Joe, I'll probably sandwich you in between my two things if that works for you. And I think, yeah, I think just in terms of efficiency here, I think just quickly, the grant program, you know, which we kind of discussed. I think folks are aware of this, but I opened the application cycle late January. It closes February 22nd.
Mhm.
So I imagine we'll get a good crop of applications again. I'll need some time to review those. And then I think this year there'll be a little bit of a different process. Traditionally, I make recommendations, this committee meets, and then it's called a direct referral to our council, and then they act, or they usually basically approve this body's recommendations. I think this year what I'm gonna do, because as staff, we've kind of been directed to avoid those direct referrals, and that's just city speak. I know that probably doesn't make sense to some people, but I think what I'm gonna do is make recommendations. It'll go to council for what's called referral. They literally don't even look at it. They just kick it back out. And then this committee will meet after, it'll be referred to this committee.
Mhm.
You will meet to see my recommendations, and you will either approve them or make your own recommendations with tweaks, and then that'll go back to the council.
Mhm.
And then that's what the council will see and ultimately approve. So instead of it coming to you first, and then the council, it'll kind of have this extra step of a referral, then it'll come to you, then back to council. So it's a little bit more city red tape, but something I need to do now that this committee is a regular committee. And it might push our final award notifications out a couple of weeks, but I don't foresee that as a problem. We probably won't be able to make award notifications till April, but again, I'm not concerned about that. So just so you guys know, and we'll talk about this at the end of the meeting, but we will need to set a regular committee meeting schedule. And we have some options for you guys to discuss. And then depending on, you know, our next meeting date, I'll get all that stuff lined up. And then you guys, again, will see the applications in the next, you know, month or so. So that's an update. And again, I will come to that meeting with recommendations based on a specific amount of money that we have available, and I'll have that number confirmed. So
Great. I remember last year you gave a really helpful scoring rubric. Is that something you're going to do again this year? Yep. And if not, could you please?
No, everything we did last year, we'll do again, and I might even try to, again, every year I try to, you know, create some internal improvements and efficiencies. So yep, you will see everything that you saw last year that was good, and maybe a few things that you didn't see that'll help as well. So
Awesome.
And then I think, Joe, I'm going to kick it to you if you want to give a quick update, or not a quick update, but an update on the teen center, and then I'll give an update on the hub, and then we'll move on from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the folks that have been in this committee for a while approved some funding to be able to, some unused funding from the H&I grant to be able to contribute toward a teen center study. So thank you. It was put to good use. So just to put the numbers together, we in the 2021 budget, we had allocated $25,000 with a commitment to raise additional dollars to be able to fund a community engagement study. We did get, you know, a good amount of donations. Part of that was that unspent funds, and then a few more thousand from individual donors. We ended up hiring Equity by Design. Thank you again, committee, for being in that selection process. and it's been working out really well. So they started the process in December, and the engagement study is supposed to go through June, I believe, of this year. There's sort of a series of things happening. Number one is there's a public survey that's being finalized that will be released with the goal of targeting adults in the neighborhood and all other adult stakeholders. So that could be, people that work in schools or nonprofits or, et cetera. And we have a goal of getting 200 responses from that. There's also a youth study that is being developed, and that will go out to young people that live in this neighborhood or the surrounding neighborhoods. And actually, we've hired 8 middle and high school students. Most of them live in Fitchburg, who are essentially project interns and are developing that study, have plans to distribute that study to their peers, and also meet bi-monthly with Equity by Design, and have been sort of engaged in a series of projects. The biggest thing, you're working with young people, you got to establish the relationship. You got to talk about why you're here. You got to, do some activities to build that trust and build that relationship. But there's also support from UW Health's Healthy Kids Project, as well as Dane County Extension, so the University of Wisconsin-Madison, is providing, consistent support and actually staffing the meeting. So it's been great. It's beautiful. We're holding meetings both virtually and in person at Redeemer City Church. The teens are brilliant. They have great ideas, great insights, great sort of understanding of their community and understanding of what their peers would be looking for. And there was also a public forum that was held early in December, in which we met the interns and learned about the project. And there's actually a online mechanism for being able to say what it is that you want in a teen center. And that's actually on Equity by Design's website, which I can post later on. We've also got a series of potential in-person events that we're looking to sort of bring out neighborhood residents, possibly, view some potential spaces, do some kind of creative photo mapping activities around that. And ultimately, there's going to be a sort of end of the project presentation, both to the council and to the broader community. And those details need to be worked out, but that's the ultimate plan. And then finally, Wade and I are in conversation about what Round 2 will look like. We have funding in our 2022 budget to be able to do a design study in which we would hire, an architect or a planner to be able to, based on the feedback from this study, actually look at what a physical space will look like and where it would be. And, eventually we'll need to put out an RFP for that the same way we did for this step. But it's my intention, one, to make sure youth are involved. So there's some sort of youth component to this. And then 2, UW Extension's been an amazing partner, and they're committed to continuing to be involved in this, and they're committed to giving their time to this project for no cost to the city at all. So it's really a you call it a pro bono cost or an in-kind donation to the city that they're making. And then part 3, which we would need to get approved in a 2023 budget, would be a feasibility study, which would really look at what are the costs, how do we need to budget for this, what sort of grants need to be written, what organizations are we going to eventually select to, run the space, and what would that agreement look like in terms of, paying rent and, who runs it and et cetera, but that's sort of far off. And then, as you know, the final plan would be to start, construction or renovation in 2024 and to have a space opened in 2025. Finally, on another piece, there's a independent group called Friends of the Teen Center. Katie's actually on it, and they're working to build awareness about the project and also eventually to be able to raise money for it once it becomes that time. And I'll say, sorry, I'm taking up so much time, Wade. The last thing is that there are a lot of foundations, organizations, companies that have a strong interest in making significant investments in this project. So I'm hoping to, as much as I can, make kind of smaller asks, give frequent updates, and, when the time comes, be able to engage them so that we're reducing the potential costs to the city and, be able to find those outside sources that were referred to earlier in this meeting about it. And then, like I said, I put in a CIP amendment to be able to have some ongoing grant support for organizations that operate in this space.
Joe, I had actually two questions. The first one was the survey where people can say what they would like in the teen center. Is that also on the Fitchburg website in addition to Equity by Designs?
I've thought about that. We should have a space for it on our site. Is that possible, Wade?
Yeah, we can do that. Is that survey out already, or is it still being worked on?
The survey's not out, but there's I can't remember the name of the app, but it's basically like it's an interactive sort of app where you can put stuff in. I'll find it in a second. And
yeah, and my thought was, once Annette kind of finalize it, we would distribute. She can distribute it wherever she wants it. We'll make sure it gets to our relevant city channels as well. So, yep.
Awesome. And then my second question was just so I know which parts, like which stages are already funded and which ones are like still like in the process of looking for funding.
Yeah. So stage one's happening right now. Mm-hmm. It's carryover dollars from 2021. Stage two is budgeted for this year. It's included in our budget. So we would basically just have to go through the process of like approving an RFP and eventually approving a vendor. And then
and that's the design.
That's the design.
Okay.
And then the feasibility would need to be approved in 2023 budget.
Okay.
And the budget process happens towards the end of this fiscal year,
right?
And or the calendar year, and then really, I think the heavy lift is going to be once it comes time to actually ask for money for the space, because that would be a significant cost, and I would imagine that's going to. I don't want to say it's going to be a contentious item, but it'll be a heavily discussed item because it will involve borrowing in order to make it happen. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Thank you. Any other?
And I just put the link in the chat, by the way.
And
then Wade, did you?
Yeah, no, I think. Yep, Joe covered it. Yeah, I think I'm just from a staff perspective, I'm kind of the guy, overseeing the project, and I've been working with Joe and Annette and various others. And yeah, like Joe said, it's off to a really good start, and looking forward to seeing where it goes. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, thank you all for your support of this in many ways. I appreciate you.
And Emily, I think I'm just going to do one last update on the hub, and then that'll be it for updates. So Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. What's going on here? Bear with me one sec here. I think I got to pull it up. All right, so this was in your packet as well. And Julia, I'll go through this quickly. I know you've seen this before. But again, I want to kind of point out that, I think folks are probably familiar with the hub project. And technically it is kind of a park project, but I think now that this committee is formed, you guys are an equal partner committee in kind of seeing this thing through. So I really want to kind of make that clear that as much as this is a park commission project, in my opinion, this is an H&I committee project as well. So kind of like, just with the teen center, I think that's the same kind of deal. So I just want to quickly, again, kind of give you context of what we're talking about here with the neighborhood and then the hub and why it makes sense to be doing this. North Fish Hatch neighborhood, I think folks know it, but it's our gateway. It gets a ton of traffic. It's very busy. We get a lot of people that live up there. 11% of our city and more on the way. It's 100% multifamily residential. Literally, no single family at all, and no developed city park space. So I think that's really, two really very important points there. So the hub is basically 3.5 acres in kind of the heart of the neighborhood. In terms of what those goals are, it's to meet the needs of our residents and bring our broader community into that neighborhood, and also to really serve as a stabilizing catalyst, spurring new investment, and also enhancing property values, and making sure that as that neighborhood evolves, making sure that the folks that want to stay in that neighborhood are able to do so. So we spent a lot of time engaging on the hub. We used our navigators. We used a little work group that consisted of a bunch of stakeholders. We had various, what I'll call design partners, and they basically told us what the hub should look like, both in concept and in final design. So today I want to talk more about what that final design looks like. But backing up to kind of the concept. So this was created about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago. We kind of broke it out into a phase 1 and phase 2. And again, to orientate people, Fish Hatchery Road is kind of out here off the screen, running kind of perpendicular to this road, which is Traceway Drive. This is that new senior housing called the High Line, kind of that 4-story building up there. Our golf course is just off Traceway. So phase 1 is, again, on the north side of Traceway Drive, just south of kind of Leopold Elementary School, south of Post Road. Phase 2 is south side. And phase 1 is what I'll call enhanced park space, and we'll talk more about that. And then phase 2 is more of a kind of a true sense of a community center, and we'll talk more about that as well. So in terms of phase 1 components, basically 4 big pieces in my head. What I'll call a community or a park building, and to me, it's kind of a new model for a building at a community park, which is a park that serves not just a neighborhood but the whole city. There's also what we're calling an outdoor covered hard court that could potentially serve year-round recreation and social gatherings. Things like farmers markets, concerts, movie nights, those sorts of things. We also have a kind of a playground yard games, kind of socializing area. We can talk more about that. And then the final piece is what we're calling an all-wheels track, which we'll show you some images of what that means or what that looks like. But basically kind of a really cool obstacle course that could service bikes, skateboards, scooters, basically anything on wheels that's, kind of rec-based. And we feel like it'd be a really unique feature, not just in our park system, but regionally as well. So I do want to just throw out some givens here, and then we'll kind of look at some of the images of phase 1. So we did create cost estimates for this project almost 2 years ago in April 2020. We didn't fully budget for those components initially. when we knew that. And I think as folks know, we're in a fairly inflated market. You know, the past year plus, things are more expensive across the board than they were, you know, a year or two ago. And then as you move from a concept to a refined final design, which is what we're doing, costs tend to go up as you get more specific with what that design looks like. So what that all means, and we'll talk about this, is that our final construction costs will exceed our current budget for phase one. And we have discussed this with the Park Commission. And we talked with them in February. We'll talk again with them in March. And we'll also talk with our council. And then, you know, figure out how to hopefully make this thing happen at kind of a full implementation level. So again, you know, my goal here today is again, you guys in my head are an equal partner here in terms of a committee. I want to get some feedback on the hub, and then we can take that feedback to both our Park Commission and our council as well. And I do want to point out, we do have hopefully some public engagement yet to come. COVID is limiting our opportunities there, but we hope to get out to the neighborhood at least one more time, you know, in the next 2 months to kind of show them this final design. And then assuming everything keeps moving forward in spring of this year, which, you know, literally a couple months, probably more like early summer at this point, we will get bids for construction and then start breaking ground this year. So in terms of what that design looks like, we'll look at some images quickly here. So this is kind of the whole site. Whoops. So again, Traceway Drive is down here on the bottom. We've got, you know, parking lot, kind of our basic parking feature. We've got that outdoor structure that I talked about that could, you know, serve rec focus, but also farmers markets or, you know, movie nights. We've got a community building, which we'll talk about what's in there. We've got a real nice pedestrian area, a picnic area. We've got our playground, and then we've got our pump track, that all wheels track as well. And then off to the right, you could just see kind of some representative images of what the site will ultimately look like. So again, this is our all wheels track. And again, won't go too far into detail on this, but we got some really good planners to do this. Their specialty is developing these kinds of features. So they really know what they're doing. So they're going to create a really cool feature that we think will draw not just from the neighborhood, but from the broader region. And I do want to point out that Ceres, folks may have heard of that company. They make a lot of things, but they make bike racks mostly. They for years have been pushing the idea of these things in city parks. So we're still working out some details, but I think they've been in this from day one with us. And I envision some level of financial support for this project. Again, we're working out details, but again, I think that just shows you kind of those partnerships that this project is really working towards. And then just some images of what that pump track will look like. We are envisioning a paved surface. Basically, it's maybe a little bit more costly up front, but in terms of long-term maintenance and upkeep, it's much cheaper, you know, in the long term. And this kind of gives you an aerial view of both that community building and that covered hard court. So as you can see, you could set it up for, you know, basketball, pickleball, you know, whatever you might want out there in terms of rec features. And then the building, I do want to focus on a little bit. Just quickly, again, we envision this as kind of a new model for a park building. You know, I think sometimes we talk about a park shelter and that serves a purpose, but I think in this neighborhood and for this park, we need to take that extra step and really create like I said, kind of a new model for a park building. So kind of, this is again, kind of the southern part of the building, the entryway. We'd have a little office space. We could have city staff up there. We could have our navigators up there. We could have, for instance, if social workers want to reserve the room and meet with clients, you know, they could do so there. We'll have a little information desk. Again, maybe the Navigators sitting out there serving as a resource for our building users. Obviously, restrooms accessible both from inside and out. Storage, mechanical area, and then a warming kitchen that can serve both the outdoor picnic area as well as the 2 meeting rooms on the right. And these meeting rooms would be reservable. They could be reserved for social events, family get-togethers, neighborhood get-togethers, but also for, let's say, kind of a classroom type element. We are going to have some basic technology in there. So if folks want to rent it for some adult education, that could serve that purpose as well. And we are discussing the potential for, assuming the building is staffed, that this second meeting room could kind of serve as a lounge area. If it isn't reserved, we would have furniture in there. Folks could hang out. There'll be a retractable door here where people can kind of go in out very easily. So I think that's another really cool, unique feature of this building as well. And then just kind of moving into some renderings of kind of what this site looks like. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so this is some architectural renderings of that outdoor structure. So this again is Traceway Drive. We're looking east towards Fish Hatchery Road. Again, you could have your movie nights, your concerts, and project under this canopy, project towards the building. You could have your basketball, pickleball, going on as well. Back here, you start to see the community building a little bit. Oops. This is just another perspective. Again, now we're looking west. We do have the idea this could be served not as just like not just a backdrop for concerts or movie nights, but also as a mural wall. We could get the neighborhood involved, get artists to come in and do some public art. So that's a feature we're exploring as well. And this gives you a better sense of the building itself. So again, this is that outdoor structure. You can see kind of how it relates to the building. We did try to mimic a lot of existing city architecture, as well as create a more urban looking design up there to kind of match the neighborhood. So we think it's a nice, nice example of that, but you can start to see how it all kind of ties together. This is an image of potentially a winter use. We are talking an ice rink as a potential use up there. So this is, again, an idea of a year-round use of the facility. And then just giving you some images from the back. This is looking towards Traceway Drive, back of the building. You kind of see how we've got a covered picnic area. That kind of ties into that pedestrian area. And then the playground isn't really fleshed out, but the playground would be, kind of sitting over here as well. And again, just kind of gives you an idea of it really being a social space. We're envisioning a fire pit as kind of a focal point for the outdoor space. So again, just a lot of activity going on. Maybe some yard games, stuff happening up here to draw our younger professional crowd. Basically something for everybody in this space. And again, just another view looking to the west towards the building. And again, you kind of see the nice window, kind of expands, a lot of natural light. This is that garage door that I was talking about. It could be, kind of a retractable door that could be kept open during the nice summer months to allow for kind of indoor access between those spaces. And then this is kind of a nice view too, kind of, sums up how everything fits together. You see the outdoor structure, the building, the pedestrian area, and the playground. And then the pump track again would be back here at the rear of the site. And then finally, just one image on kind of the interior. So this would be the front entrance, again, south side of the building. This is that office space, kind of a nice little hallway connector here. We envision, again, opportunities for public art, maybe partnering with Leopold School, getting some artwork, on this corridor as well. And these are kind of those meeting rooms that I mentioned. And again, you can kind of see that retractable indoor-outdoor door as well. And then just one last point, I think a goal with this facility, with this hub is sustainability. So to the degree we can create a really sustainable building in place, that's our goal. So you see some solar, on the roof as well. So with that, before I get into budget and costs, maybe just any feedback on design or, things you like, things we maybe didn't think about. So yeah, open any committee feedback. And I do want to point out, we are pretty well set in terms of our final design. We vetted this, through a lot of eyes, over a couple of years. So aren't looking at reinventing the wheel by any means, but certainly if there's, minor tweaks of things we haven't thought about, we're happy to take note on that. So.
No?
Couple things. So one, it's beautiful. This is like the third time I've seen this, but I always really enjoy looking at it. For the neighborhood engagement, just a suggestion that since you'd be, looking at the Leopold neighborhood and you've got a vacancy on the H&I committee, it's just maybe a plug you might want to make. And then I'm assuming this is so, but I want to ask, is this, are you showing this to the Allied, or then not the Allied, the Leopold Arbor Hills NRT in Madison?
Yeah, we, good point. We connected with them a couple months ago. We weren't this far along, but we did have Linda Horvath, who heads that team. She was on our work group. So she was really vital in kind of getting this thing to this point. But yeah, it's a good point. I should circle back with them and get on one of their agendas. And yeah, good suggestion.
The other thing I'm wondering is, I know this is going to be a sort of all-encompassing community center, but it might also make sense that as you do community engagement to maybe differentiate into different age groups. So like if elders are going to use this, if, families are going to use this, if youth are going to use this, just maybe like what you're showing them and what you're asking them may be different.
Yeah.
So that, I know you're limited in your time and your, capacity, but that just may be like breakout rooms may be a good idea.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yep.
Yes. You want to go?
So, Wade, when you presented this to the Parks Committee last week, you mentioned about the ice rink under the structure, my concern is, these are all great ideas, but my concern is when we take this to the council, okay, I want to be sure that, that if we incorporate new stuff, that they're going to be very expensive. We have to be careful how to do it, because I don't want this project to be jeopardized because,
Yep.
the fee has increased, for the construction, and
Yep.
And then I know that it's great to have an ice rink, but maybe how we can build this in phases, that maybe in the future we can incorporate that. But I don't want to bring all the new amenity at once.
Yeah.
And then the council say no, and then we don't have anything. You know what I mean? So
Yep. And
okay. Yeah.
that's a really good point, and that's the kind of feedback we're looking for. So like, at the end of the day here, if this body wants to make a recommendation on certain things that maybe we don't want to proceed with, that's the committee's right. And that's a good point. And we'll get to that in a few minutes, but that ice rink was one thing we didn't initially design in our concept. That came later. So you're right, that'll be new to some people. And if we don't want to proceed with that, staff understands that. Yep.
No, it's not like I love the idea, because that one is we are putting an ice rink in a place where people, some of those kids there, they are no exposure to winter activity or exercise. They don't even, we have the golf course, and they don't even, we don't even as a city promote that park as a winter activity, so I really love all that, but I think because the ice rink is gonna cost $750,000. So my idea is how could we can build the infrastructure, so eventually maybe in a couple of years we raise the funds and we can build it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're discussing with our consultant, is there a way to kind of phase the outdoor structure, and we can talk more about that. And then another point, as an example, Monona has a similar ice rink. It's not covered like this, but they have private partner support. So if you go to that facility, you'll see a sign that says something like the Monona Ice Rink sponsored by Monona Bank. So, those are things that we will explore. And then just one more kind of thought on the ice rink. I think the idea is, again, it wasn't in the initial concept, but if you remember back to the goals of this project, it's not just to serve the neighborhood, but it's to really serve the community, make this a community spot. And I think by doing that, lots of good things will happen for the neighborhood and the community. And I think an ice rink, to me, is a community feature that would draw people to this area. And also, to your point, Julia, expose the neighborhood maybe or some neighborhood folks to things that they haven't experienced rec-wise. So yeah, those are just, kind of some ideas on why we included it. And certainly, yeah, if we need to phase it, or if it doesn't happen initially, those are things that, staff is prepared for, so.
Go on, sorry.
So, yeah, so if we, we can present the whole packet, you know what I mean? Like everything, but then the question is, this is how the ideal park, you know what I mean? But I really, my concern is to have the 5 vote for this project, you know what I mean? So, and this thing is getting expensive by the minute because of the inflation, and the construction costs are up 20-30% compared to last year. So, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, and just to be clear, from a staff perspective, a planning perspective, I think this thing works. This site works without an ice rink. You know what I mean? Like, we all have our ideal list of everything, and sometimes we don't always get everything we want. So I want to be clear that this thing will work. If we without an ice rink. So, yeah.
There were a bunch of improvements to McKee Park recently, right? In the budget in the capital improvements
that's
plan?
Probably a question for our parks director, but I believe you're probably right on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was like something about pickleball, and I was wondering about that, and like just in terms of like an equity basis. Like I like, don't get me wrong, I love McKee Park. I think it's beautiful, but like this is also a neighborhood that like it needs some love. Like, let's be honest.
Emily, it's about priorities, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you an example. Wade and a couple of others we have behind this hub for many, many years, okay? And then last year, we built all the pickleball court in Mago Park in a summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about priority, okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I understand your comment.
Yeah.
So, and something take forever to build in the area where we really, really need. But most of the funding for this park is coming from park dedication fees.
Mm-hmm.
The majority, and there is, and the good thing about that fish hatchery corridor with the new road that we construct, we didn't construct a new road,
Yeah, resurfaced. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So you can see that there are more projects coming to that corridor, and those projects have to provide, park dedication fee.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that area is built up, you know,
Yeah.
or more projects come to that area, those funds are gonna qualify to go to this park. So this is what I say, the ice rink maybe can be built in a couple of years if we have another project that is coming to the area where they need to, I don't, so
Yeah.
we're talking about $700,000, $800,000 per dedication fee. You know what I mean? So, so that one is and also we are building more capacity units in that corridor, and those people need to have a place where to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I think there is a lot of good reason to build this and why we need to build it and why we need to fund it. And also, you know, we are, Aldo Maldonado and I, we allocated $10 million for the hub and this project 2 years ago, that we decreased the amount of the police station was budgeted at $35 million. So we take 10 million from there to fund these two projects too. So then, you know, we did that 2 years ago, but every year when it's CIP or budget, the mayor is keeping changing. And last year, the mayor already took all the funding from the hub, you know what I mean? And moved the teen center to at the end of 2030. So, and every year, Joe and myself, we had to come back and fight for the funding to keep this project alive. And it's exhausting, you know what I mean? So, so this is why I think now we are seeing the light, because we have a final design that if we have the approval of, you know, this committee, parks, and the support of the community to continue and start building. We need to start building this in here, you know, we need to, you know, so.
And if I could just add on to Emily and Julia's points, you know, as a planner, I think geographically, right? So, and I earlier in the presentation, I mentioned 11% of our city's population lives in this neighborhood. I think it's like either a quarter mile or half a mile. Don't quote me on that. But point being is we have a large segment of our population with literally no developed park space. Okay.
Right.
And if you look at some of our more, I'll just call them suburban areas, less dense areas, and we've invested no city dollars in park space ever, you know, in this neighborhood. So, you know, just when you start to think about some of those comparisons, you know, I think even if we are talking 2 million or 3 million, to me, it makes sense, you know, from an not even an equity is part of it, but just from a logical geographical distribution of resources based on city population. Exactly. So,
Okay.
When is it? Yeah, I was gonna just ask what if all goes according to plan, can you remind me when it's gonna be completed, or what is the targeted completion?
Yeah, so maybe what I'll do quickly, I just want to spend 5 or 10 minutes on kind of this next piece of the puzzle, and then I think you guys will have the full picture, and then we can talk more if you'd like. So what I just presented to you, we presented to Park Commission in January. What I'm going to present to you now is what we presented in February, about a week ago. And this basically talks about the budget and costs. So again, just to remind people of, you know, the big 4 pieces of phase 1. And then, you know, we talk about our givens, you know, based on current conditions. So kind of where the rubber hits the road here is we've got about 2.5 million for our phase 1. Now, the things we accounted for when we made the budget years ago are all these things that you see here, okay? And we're still pretty good over budget. But again, that's per a lot of the, you know, the reasons on this previous slide. Inflation, you know, all those sorts of things. And literally, we got this number of inflation from our architect. In the construction industry in the past 2 years, they're seeing 15% inflation, you know, across the board. So that's a pretty big number. And then the things we didn't account for in our budget was basically that outdoor structure. And then we didn't, in the concept, we didn't identify an ice rink. So this 1.5, you know, plus this kind of gets you where we're at in terms of total budget. But again, I want to point out, we did not account for these these things in that initial budget. So kind of where everything ties together here is if we want to really keep the integrity of that site, we're gonna have to think about other funding sources and or cost reductions. So just quickly talking about other funding sources, and I want to start specific to that pump track, that all wheels track. I think there's a good opportunity to go to Dane County in the early summer here to get some sizable grant money. Optimistically, I think we could probably get $150,000. And then I talked about our Ceres partner, but there's some potential there for additional funds. So that gets you another 225 right there. Julia mentioned additional Parkland dedication funds. We will see new development in that area in the next couple of years, and there will be Parkland dedication required. And I think it's logical to discuss that those funds potentially go to this project. There's Hub Phase 2, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's ARPA, which we'll talk about at the end of the meeting. And then there's certainly, other sources as well. And again, just to remind people of what Phase 2 is, that's kind of the south side, kind of more of a full-scale neighborhood center. So I want to talk about what a Phase 2 could look like as it relates to funding Phase 1. Now, in our initial concept, we identified a very large Phase 2 building. You can see the image down here. Again, this is orange on the south side of Traceway. We feel like what we've designed for in that Phase 1 building, we could, and the fact that we've basically lost a building partner for that Phase 2, we feel like we could really reduce the footprint of Phase 1 to a much smaller building. And then, with that Phase 1 building, we think we'll have adequate space up there for a Phase 1 and a Phase 2 building combined. And just to give people some context, our community center here at City Hall campus, so it's a 2-story building with a senior center and a community center. That's about 17,000 square feet. So hopefully that gives folks some context. And then again, I think we're envisioning, certain pieces in that Phase 2, space for city staff, community rooms that we don't have in Phase 1, as well as leasable service provider space, whether it's social workers or adult, economic job placement organizations, whatever it might be, folks could lease space in that building. And we do have a new estimate of square footage of 243 for that Phase 2 smaller building. So basically what this all means is that with a smaller building, we would have surplus funds left over from Phase 2. And I forgot to mention that Phase 2, we currently have about $5 million budgeted. So that's kind of our potential additional revenue sources. There are also some potential cost reductions that I probably won't get into unless folks want me to. But the idea is we could shave off a fair amount of money from that Phase 1 budget if we cut out certain things from the Phase 1 building. I think some of them from a staff perspective are things we don't really want to go down that path. A lot of sustainability elements, but they're things we could cut if we have to. And then just kind of wrapping this all up, I think there's really 4 options in front of the Park Commission, the council, and this body. The first option would be current design. So everything we've talked about, implementing now. The second option would be the current design with a phased approach. And we'll talk about what that looks like. And the gist of 1 and 2 is we still would need to find additional funds. And we've talked about where those funds could come from. The third option is to modify the design, basically do some of those cost reductions that we didn't get into detail on. And again, we could do all that now, build everything now. And the fourth idea would be to modify design with cost reductions, but with a phased approach, okay? So I want to talk about kind of that phased approach as it relates to these 4 options. And again, hopefully folks are staying with me here. I'll call it a phasing of Phase 1. So Phase 1A, which could take place this year, would basically be the core of the site. The community building, the playground, that pedestrian area, and the parking lot and the landscaping. The phase 2 could take place next year, or 2023, after we've hopefully brought in that 225 for the pump track. And maybe we figured out some other Parkland dedication funding sources, who knows? So that would be a phase 1B, again, to take place that year after, or the year of 2023. So again, kind of wrapping up here, staff is recommending, we recommended the Park Commission, what I'll call a modified design with some cost reductions to be figured out. But that means we will still exceed phase 1 budget, but we also would propose a phased approach, as we just discussed. And then to make up that shortfall for phase 1, we would reallocate some phase 2 funds. And then as future Parkland dedication funds become available, and if appropriate, they would also make up that phase 2 shortfall. So kind of where that all ties together is, kind of these numbers here. We still need a good chunk of money if we want to do that phased approach. But we feel like with the phase 2 monies and the Parkland dedication additional funds that might come in, we can make it happen. So I know I threw a lot at you, but you guys now have the full picture. And I just want to point out one last point. The Park Commission at their meeting, they recommended that staff proceed with basically a phased approach, as I kind of discussed, and with using phase 2 funds. They didn't get to the point of talking about cost reductions yet. We're going to talk about that in March. But basically at the March Park Commission meeting, we will have a final Park Commission recommendation on phasing, additional funding sources, and cost reductions. And then we will go to the council, present that, and get final direction. So with that, if people are still with me, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Does the phasing plan that you have now currently reflect the ice rink being in the numbers, or is that outside?
So that's a question open for discussion. With these numbers here, that includes staff's recommendation would be the ice rink, to include the ice rink. So if the ultimate decision is not the ice rink, you would subtract, I think it's 700 or 800,000 from that number there.
Okay. Yeah, Katie.
Could we put the ice rink in phase 2?
Yeah, so, yep, good clarification. So the ice rink, just bear with me here. Find the slide. Okay, so yeah, the hardcourt area would be proposed to be in phase 1AB, or phase 1B, let's call it. But then I think there's a 1B 1 or 2. The 1B1 is with the ice rink, the 1B2 is without. So staff is proposing covered structure in phase 1B, but then I think the second question is with ice rink or without. Does that answer your question, Katie?
I think so. So all of that funding.
So this funding here, this shortfall, which we would propose to be used with a combination of phase 2 and Parkland dedication, this number includes the ice rink.
Okay.
So if we don't ever do an ice rink, you would take about 800,000 subtracted from this number.
So it'd be about like 1.4 million, give or take.
Let me confirm what that ice rink costs. About 700,000. So.
Okay, 1.5.
And those additional funds would be gained from the Parkland dedication fees and like future budget?
Potentially from Parkland dedication fees, but I think more immediately from a reallocation of phase 2 funds. So again, we currently have 5 million
Mhm.
budgeted for that phase 2 big footprint neighborhood center. Again, now that we've come up with our final design for phase 1, we think that phase 2 building could be much smaller and much cheaper. So that means we're not going to need, as of now, 5 million to build that phase 2. So that leftover phase 2 could be plugged into the phase 1.
Do you know what that number is? The difference between what you expect?
Yeah, it's yeah, I think I took it out because I thought it would confuse people, but it basically it's 5 million minus 233 times. I guess point being it's more than this.
Okay.
It's about this.
Okay.
I have the number, but it was confusing, so I didn't put it in.
I think my thought is like I think if we can show that like we can afford the ice rink with funds that we already have and still afford phase 2, like I think it would be wonderful to go for all of it. But if it is really going to just show that we're not going to be able to accomplish phase 2, my sense is that could kind of like scare the council off potentially, like so.
And I guess I want to point out too, and you guys are relatively new to this phase 2 conversation, but there's a lot of caveats to phase 2. One of them being, and this has been fully disclosed, council is aware of this. For phase 2 to happen, as we've currently designed it, we need to acquire property from a landowner up there. This half of phase 2 isn't our property.
Oh, that's big.
Every indication is that landowner wants us to have that property, but it is tied up in some HUD financing that he's gonna have to jump through. They're gonna have to jump through some hoops to get that free and clear to us. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is it the same developer who did the Highline?
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Huh. Well then I kind of like the ice rink. Where are you guys netting down? Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, I am leaning towards including it, including the ice rink. So let me ask a clarifying question. So if it went forward without the ice rink, were you saying, Wade, that it can always be added in later, or was I misunderstanding?
I mean, I think there's a couple of options. So we're clarifying with our architect consultant on those options. I mean, there might be a way we could bring in ice portably. I don't have an answer for you on that yet, potentially. That's an option. You know, I think another option that was brought up is, do you just do on the south side of on the golf course side, you just do like a old school rink that you create with, a hose and frozen water. Yeah, right. It certainly isn't the same experience, but that could be something. But yeah, I think in the next couple of weeks we'll have confirmation on whether or not that ice rink, we could do like a portable option. My gut is it may not be feasible just logistically, because we'd have to store a lot of stuff probably, and I don't quite know how that shakes out, but potentially I guess is maybe a good place to leave it.
Yeah, I think I lean towards leaving that in, leaving the ice rink in.
Can I ask another clarifying question?
Mm-hmm.
So if this was presented to council with the ice rink in and council balked at the numbers, could we could it be amended in that council meeting to say, just take it out for now?
Yeah, so what's gonna happen, Katie, is there's a lot of sausage making to happen yet, in terms of process. So Scott and I are trying to figure out the best approach, but I think what will ultimately happen is council will be presented with the park commission's recommendation as well as this body's, if you guys are comfortable making one. But the council has the right to do whatever they want. So they can take stuff out, exactly, so yep.
Then I would be in favor of leaving the ice rink in.
Me too with the phased approach. And also I was just thinking like that developer who currently owns the phase 2 land, like they had a plan up before a plan commission, and I know they were looking at doing some developments, and because of like Parkland dedication fees, like they have credits and stuff. So I was just thinking if they are like the major one developing that area, that money might not unfortunately become so available too. So I'd kind of prefer to just leave it in.
No, but Emily, they have some credit, but it doesn't cover the whole amount. So this is what they are looking for, a swap of that parcel too, part of the package.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And also there is another, the Ochala Drive development is coming too.
Yep.
So that one is, so yeah. And who knows what else is going to open there too, so.
Okay.
So
right.
maybe a little bit of just to kind of help, maybe to kind of recreate what we did at Park Commission. I think if there's comfort in whatever this body's comfortable doing is fine by me, but just to kind of reiterate, so what the Park Commission did is they kind of directed staff to proceed with, just hold on here, pretty much our recommendation. So they liked the idea of a phased approach, a phase 1A and a phase 1B. They liked the idea of reallocating phase 2 funds to cover phase 1. They did not get to the level of specific elements, so like ice rink or building cost reductions. So, this body could, I guess, touch on phasing. You could touch on funding sources, and you could touch on specific elements. Any one of those three, all those three, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And then I'll take that to the Park Commission in March and let them know what you guys, kind of thought. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Does someone want to make a motion?
And I wasn't rushing a motion.
Oh.
I just wanted to kind of clarify.
Yeah.
I think what my end goal here today is with this group. So,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's certainly if you guys want to have more discussion.
Yeah. Are people comfortable going to a motion, or do you guys want to have more discussion? Yeah. Julia?
Yeah, my other comment is, because the all wheels track is a big attraction too. I would like to keep it in phase 1, you know what I mean? You have it in phase 2, isn't it?
Yeah, and the only thought there is a couple thoughts. Again, we kind of made a promise last year from Dane County that if we applied again this year for the pump track, we would get money.
Okay.
But we won't know that until, again, that was just a promise. I would think it would remain, but we won't know for sure until like probably later this summer on that. And I think we could probably ask for 150,000 realistically and maybe get it. And then Saris, the other partner there, they are going to be holding a fundraising event sometime in the next couple months. And they've thrown out 75 grand. I'm not going to hold them to that, but we wouldn't have confirmation on that until later this year as well. So that was one idea of why to push the pump track out. But again, just full information there.
Katie?
I have 2 questions. So to go off of the pump track, I agree with Julio, which I think like that's a big attraction. Is there a way that you could do that staged, or is the funding for the pump track all coming from Saris and Dane County?
I mean, I think the idea, if we want it to be part of phase 1A, which means this year, we'd have to make up for it with city funds.
Okay.
And then if Dane County grant funds and Saris funds come through later in the year, then we would just take that in and then, put that other money back into city coffers. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I don't think we want to phase that.
Okay.
I don't think we want to phase pieces. We can phase
Segments.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you had mentioned that the Parks Commission didn't get into cost reduction discussion. Is that something that we want to get into? I noticed on the slide that you have that on, there's some that are in red and some that are in black.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the gist of it there was a Park Commission. Again, it was a lot of information. They wanted some time to think stuff through. So what the red means, and I do remember what the red means this time, Katie. The red is staff recommended cost reductions. Again, if at the end of the day, cost reductions aren't ideal, but if we want to cut somewhere, these are things that staff feels like we could cut and still keep the integrity of the site. I think the main one would be reducing the building size by 150,000 or 150 square feet, which basically means just shaving off kind of this purple piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to point out that with all these, you'd save about 370, which I think is sizable. That's a good chunk. With staff recommendations, I think it's 112, which is, it's still 112,000. It's, compared to the broader budget, it's not huge, but, just some context there, so.
And a point of clarification, I also part of the Parks Commission too. So the Parks Commissioner also wanted to have the cost in an Excel in another format because it was difficult for some of them to read this. So they wanted to have they asked way to put all this number in a spreadsheet, more organized, more visual, so we can make the decision.
Yep, and I will do that. And just to clarify, so it's 144. That would be the total reduction with the staff recommended cost cuts.
Right.
What was that piece, part of the building? If you included that in the cost cutting, what was that was getting axed then?
Yeah, so basically, I think the building's about 3,800 square feet, which is a pretty good sized building. So this proposal would cut 150 square feet off the northern portion, I'm sorry. Save us about 54 grand. And I think we would probably just have everything would just get a little smaller. So that meeting room 2 would probably get shrunk a little bit. Our storage would get shrunk. The kitchen would get shrunk. So I think the architect would kind of have to find a way to distribute that, throughout the building, so.
So I'm not gonna make a motion, but I'm just letting folks know where I stand. I'm okay with what city staff are recommending as far as phases, and also with the reduction in costs.
The city recommended reduction in costs, or like the full list?
I'm sorry, yeah, the city recommended reductions.
Yeah.
I want to say city staff. Those are city staff. Yep.
I'm sorry, city staff. Yep.
Sorry.
City staff.
Yeah, I'm okay with the phased recommendation. I would like to avoid cutting costs if at all possible, and kind of like wait to cross that bridge if we have to. That's where I'm landing.
Yeah, actually, that's what I would propose too.
So Emily, are you saying that you don't want to reduce the cost that the city was recommending?
I think at this phase, not if we don't have to. Like, I think, when the phase 2 is ready to go, and we're like at that stage of making those decisions, like if it comes down to it and we do need to cut, then let's revisit it and let's see, what is best at that point. But I think right now it seems to me like it would be possible to do it without, and so we could just delay making that decision. Kind of cross that bridge if we have to.
Yeah, and to Katie's earlier point, I mean, I think, again, this is assuming current budget, inflation will continue to rise, as we continue to delay phase 2. I think to make everything work with current phase 1 and phase 2, we'd have to stick closer to this 12,000 square foot number for a phase 2 building, which is fine. It is what it is, but I want to make people clear on that too. It's still going to be real tight with trying to fully fund phase 1 as we presented, and then even with a scaled down phase 2, it's still going to be tight.
Yeah.
With current budget. Again, this isn't assuming any additional Parkland dedication coming online, which we've discussed. So.
And
Yeah.
and I am fine to reducing the half phase 2 only because we have in the half phase 1, we have some small, shelter. We have a shelter with rooms, with an office, in case that
Right.
the half phase 2 get delayed because another mayor come, another administration come, and they say, we don't want to do that. At least we have something in phase 1 with a big shelter, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
This is how I see it.
Yeah, and just to pick up on that, and that was staff's calculus from the get-go. I mean, we all know how things work in politics and budgets, and we wanted something that planned out that if phase 2 happened, phase 1 and phase 2 would speak to each other. They would work together. But if phase 2 didn't happen, phase 1 could stand on its own and be an incredible asset to the community, which I think we, not tooting our horns, but I think we're there. So, yeah.
So is someone comfortable making a motion?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So at this point, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that I'm on slide 16 of Wade's deck, that we're on current design now, or current design phased, additional funds needed. Is that what we've decided?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then I guess I make a motion to move forward with current design phased, additional funds needed.
I'll second.
Can I ask a question? Does that include ice rink?
In my brain, it does.
Just to clarify, so people are.
Okay.
All right. All ayes?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any nays? Motion passes.
Thank you. That was a good discussion and very helpful for me. And like I said, we'll take that recommendation of the Park Commission and the council, and then we'll keep you guys updated. So thank you.
All right. And so, Wade, are we ready to move to 5D?
Yeah, and remind me, Emily, that is what? Is that the ARPA?
Yeah, it's resolution R1822, adopting ARPA TID number 6, closure investment plan.
And I'm going to refer to the mayor's proposal on this. Just bear with me.
No, but this is a motion. We need to move approval, and then we go to discussion.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
So Emily, this is a resolution, so we need to move for approval first.
Well, can we talk about the resolution first and then?
Yeah, but we need to move and we need to have a second.
Well, the discussion will happen after the motion. Emily, you're not approving anything. It's just to allow discussion.
Oh, okay. All right. Can someone motion?
So we're moving to discuss resolution.
No, we need, yeah. No, you need to say, I move approval of resolution. You need to move it to approve.
To approve
Why do
the
we need
discussion.
to approve
Because
that
this is a
before the
resolution that
discussion?
is, this is a because this is my third time that I am doing this.
Yeah, no,
commission.
it's just more for my education, so I
No,
understand.
no, this is
I
a
don't doubt
resolution.
you.
When you have a resolution in front of you, you need to move to the approval and a second, and then we start the discussion. Because it was referred to us for approval or not.
And then during the course of the discussion, Emily, if there's amendments or changes,
Yeah, we do it there.
the motion evolves based on the discussion.
Okay, so just, I'll make a motion to approve resolution R1822.
Second.
Second. So
Um,
now you open
all
to
eyes?
discussion. No, you need to open to discussion first.
Oh, so we don't
No,
actually
you
vote
open
on
to
it.
discussion. No, we voted at the end when we are ready to vote.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
So Wade is gonna speak now.
So I just have literally a couple minutes and then you guys can take it away. So in my opinion, there isn't a whole lot that's relevant to this body. I think the one thing that I saw, and again, so folks know, this is basically some one-time federal funds, from the federal government, COVID related, a pretty good chunk of change. So the mayor came up with a proposal to use that money, across the city. And then it's going out to pretty much every committee for their feedback. And then all that feedback will be presented back to the council. And then they will discuss and then likely probably make amendments. And then they will vote on a final plan and then ultimately approve something. But so I think the idea is there'll be changes to what we're seeing tonight. So, and again, other folks might have, Julie, you might have more insight than I do, but I think the one thing I saw that was relevant to this committee, and just bear with me here, find it. It was basically talking about a study for staffing. And I don't know where it is, somewhere in here. Oh, here it is, staffing plan consultant. So, I talked earlier about just this committee and your new duties and expansion of the HNI. And, I think, I don't quite know what the staffing plan will entail, but I envision that staff and committees will be asked for feedback on that. And I think that is a great opportunity for this committee to start talking about some of the things we've just touched on. So in my opinion, that's something relevant to this committee. And I, from both what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, as well as, this committee, I would think it'd be something that we'd be interested in supporting. Other than that, I don't see a whole lot relevant. And Julie, I'm sure if you have thoughts, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I want to clarify, the council, we have a committee of the whole in January where we provide some ideas to the mayor to incorporate in his plan, okay? In this investment plan. So the mayor took some of our ideas and consideration and put it together to his plan. So there are some ideas or projects that I discussed in that, and some other elders discussed in that committee of the whole, and they were incorporated. A lot of them, they were not. My biggest concern here is there are not too much investment in parks infrastructure. I in my committee of the whole, I mentioned that I would like to see more funding to the hub, and I didn't see any. There is no money for the hub, and that one is, for me, is very disappointed, because if you read the ruling, ARPA ruling, it mentioned a lot about how to invest in qualified track census areas. And the north part of Fishhatchee Road is a qualified for that, especially in underserved areas, and also talk a lot of investment in parks and infrastructure in parks. So I was very surprised that there is nothing here, you know what I mean, about in the mayor proposal to talk about specifically to mention the hub in infrastructure. So for me, this is the elders, they have until Monday to bring amendments. So I want to bring an amendment to bring more, to allocate funding for the hub, for the cover area, or for the all wheels track. These are gonna be my two for the hub, and also for the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. I am planning to bring another amendment to allocate some funding to increase the amount of funding for the grants. You know, because it qualifies. It's like this is what this money is for. You know, helping community, working with not-for-profit in areas where we have this social and economic disparity. How we can build healthy community. So for me, this is the thing that I want to bring forward. Also, I would like to invest more money in the 9 Spring golf course, like create some winter activity, maybe buy inventory of skates, or you know, something that people can, or snowshoeing, some people that can rent for $1 and they can use the park in winter. But if we don't provide, you know, if you need to buy a snowshoeing, you know, it costs you like more than $150, you know, and how we can allocate some funding for buying those supplies, so where people can enjoy the park. So so this is what I was thinking about. Some of my amendments, I'm gonna bring other ones, but for infrastructure and park, you know, I am considered these ones that I mentioned to you. So I want to know, what do you think?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So is the point of us discussing this tonight is to address those questions that you just brought up, Julia?
No, it's
Okay.
you can, you know, we can discuss about if this committee has, you know, other ideas or that they are not in the plan, and also to approve this. You know, we need to approve this, like a symbolically this plan, and then maybe you can send me an email and then say, or help me with my amendment and say, Julia, you know, in this or in name of this committee, I can say the Healthy Neighborhood Committee, this is the amendment that we are bringing under my name, you know, but I would like to have your support, and when I need to go and you know, share my amendment to the council, that I have support from the committee, you know.
Okay.
If I could just clarify or add on to that, yeah, I think the goal would be to either have the committee will take an action tonight on this, either recommending approval of the mayor's plan as presented, or recommending approval of the plan as modified by this committee, you know, and then you need to identify those modifications.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Is there somewhere that we can, I see that, like, I only have the 3-page version that was on the agenda packet. Is there a version that we can see that's the whole thing?
Yeah, I've got it up on the screen. Basically, on your laptop, if you click on the packet, it takes you to a link. That link will take you to it. It's embedded on our city website.
Okay.
So, so I have it on the screen, but,
And I just put it in the chat too.
okay. But yeah, it's really kind of categorized into, I guess let's see here, 10 categories, which you can probably see there. And then there's kind of a page on each one.
Julia, do you know the amounts of the fundings that you're pushing to amend?
Well, you know, the amount is, yeah, I need, to be honest, I want to work on this weekend because I have been crazy with my work. So I don't know exactly the amount, but they're going to be estimates, you know, like allocate. I think this is different. Is Alder are going to bring some other priorities and maybe we can incorporate and then because there are a lot of infrastructure initiative here that maybe maybe the city can apply to grants that come in, all this money coming from the infrastructure bill, that maybe some of those expenses that the mayor put here, that can be eventually covered with other grant money that we can obtain. And that one is gonna open up to bring other priority, like my wish list, you know, like, oh, there was this amendment, you know, maybe we can do that. But the other thing funny that I want to say, you know, is that, you know, there are like 1.2 million for process improvement initiative. Those one are, you know, buying software for inside. These are internal needs, you know. I know that I know that there are some needs. If you look at that $1.2 million, this is already a $900,000 accounting system that is already in the CIP for maybe 1 or 2 years on the road. So, and then if you look at sustainability initiative, you only have a $300,000. So, you know what I mean? So
It seems skewed.
And for me, there are things that they are not, you know, I am still trying to understand how we're going to use this money. And then, and also you look at group number 3, one of the city infrastructure is to bike lane on the remaining Wayland Road. Wayland Road is a very rural area where bikers that they are biking a $10,000 bike, you know what I mean? And then we are gonna use money to you know, to pay the shoulder. I oppose this way back when we need to do it because this is not priority for me. We already have bike paths where they can go. So this is everything that I am looking with a different lens, all of this, and to understand, you know, because there is not a specific allocation for each project. You know, they say we are going to allocate $1.8 million for infrastructure. And then there are some good ideas there, you know, but there are also ideas that for me, Julia, they are low priority, like, you know, Wayland Road, the line bake for the Wayland Road. You know, for me, it's a low priority because I think that we have better other priority in the city that we can use the money. So, so this is how I see in this. You know, is you know, there should be a balance about using this money for external needs and internal needs. And I see now the balance is more, the money is going to be used internally than externally. And there, we have the needs, okay? I am not saying no, but, you know, but the needs are there, but I am planning to bring those amendments, you know, for the hub and the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative to fund them, so.
Wade, can I ask you a question? When it says within a qualified census tract, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so that's a federal designation. There's actually, there's a website that identifies all those. I can email it to people later this week. Don't quote me on this, but I believe Fitchburg, so the hub isn't technically in a qualified census tract, but it immediately north it is. It's adjacent to one.
Yeah.
And hub customers will come from one of those tracts. So in terms of Fitchburg geography, I think it's that area and maybe like the Allied area, areas that are closest to qualified census tracts in our city. I feel like we might have any.
I want to tell you what it is. It's is a, is a qualified census tract are those in which 50% or more of the household are income eligible for, and the population of all census tract that satisfy, so there is like a low income percentage of household,
Perfect. Yeah, 'cause I was thinking one of the things that I was seeing in the city infrastructure project, that the one with a like $1.8 million price tag, like I do like that it says lump sum street resurfacing, large project with a focus on roads within qualified census tracts. So that I thought was really positive. Yeah. And then I definitely support the planning for growth. I guess one of my questions also was, do we need additional support for other areas outside of Greenfield or outside of, Southdale?
Yeah, and if I could just speak to that, those are basically what those entail. My understanding is it's called greenfield development, so it's previously undeveloped areas.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, the process is we first do a neighborhood plan, which is
Mm-hmm.
like kind of an all-encompassing plan, and then there's a couple other steps before it's ready to be developed. But yeah, potentially. So there's greenfield development, and there's what we'll call like gray field or infill.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we've done a couple of those plans in the recent past.
Yeah.
I think there could be a case made that maybe we should update some of those or do other areas. But yeah, this is strictly greenfield stuff. Yep.
Got it. All right. So then Southdale, like some of it's greenfield, but some of it.
No,
really
no,
isn't,
this is
right?
different. This is
No, this is
The-
basically it's everything to the south. Like if you look at our city, well, you can see the map behind me,
Yeah.
all that farmland.
Yeah.
And it's confusing because
Oh, well.
Greenfield is a neighborhood, but Greenfield is also a term of development. So when I say, so Greenfield, I'm talking about the type of development.
But when it says greenfield area, is that
right? So what that means is, yeah, it's new development for both the Greenfield area and the Spellstone or Prairie area. But the type of development is called greenfield. I know that's confusing. So,
no, that does make sense.
I'm gonna put it in layman term,
No, I think I got it. I just think so. Then the planning for growth, then on like page 11, it doesn't seem like it's actually helping the H&I committee.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
It's all about non-developed areas to the south.
the city.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we need to determine where we are gonna grow in the next 10 years because so we need to, but then we need to do DNR, CARP-C, we need to prepare the land and it takes 2 or 3 years to put together a neighborhood plan. So this is why, and it costs around $100,000 to post those studies. So this is why if we need to use the TID, this is gonna be used more with TID money than with ARPA. So to start with those studies.
So then, Wade, what was the proposal that you were referencing?
Well, yeah.
What
So
was
Julie
that
got it
called?
right there. I guess what I was saying is that just like we plan for development on our farmland, undeveloped areas, again, that's called greenfield development.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's another development called grayfield, which essentially means taking already developed areas
And looking at info.
Exactly. So like North Fish Hatch, Verona Road, Southdale, you could technically say we could do grayfield plans for them in the next 10 years, meaning
that would be awesome.
This is how they look now. In 10 years, we want them to look like this. And we've done that to some degree with North Fish Hatch. I would argue we didn't go all the way with the plan.
Okay.
We kind of had a concept, but as an example, the Anton Drive area, which is in the Verona Road neighborhood, we do have a redevelopment plan for that. That was created probably 5+ years ago. But that's a good point to bring up, especially from my perspective, because certainly we need greenfield growth. I get that. But greenfield growth from a planning perspective makes a lot of sense too. So thinking about that is on target. Yep.
Does anyone have any other comments or questions?
So then what exactly, I guess, needs to happen right now? So we approved we approved this, right? We approved the resolution, and then so we're discussing changes and recommend or moving to approve the resolution with our input on changes. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I think you
And-
would, you know, if, I mean, my thought would be, Julia, chime in here, but I mean, if the committee likes Julia's concepts, you know, in terms of her ideas for changing this thing, I would think the committee would want to recommend approval with those concepts included.
I forgot another one that I have for the healthy neighborhood. You know, like Little John's is a not-for-profit organization, and it's also the final ruling talk a lot about food insecurity. Okay, in this qualified census tract area. So, so my idea was to also to put an amendment to how we can allocate some funding for this food insecurity. And then when I talk about food insecurity, working with a not-for-profit that they are doing that job. And then we have one that is Little John that is in the healthy neighborhood area doing food insecurity. So maybe allocate some funding for them. I received the list of all the equipment that they need to buy, put together the Verona Road place. And my idea is to allocate maybe $50,000 for food insecurity to work with a not-for-profit, you know, and maybe if this is the contribution that a city can make to them for capital expenditure, like helping them with the capital expenditure. So that one was another one that
Would it be a one-time grant, basically?
No, there are in the ruling there is called you can work with, there is another name, because you are practically working, giving the money to another organization. I don't know the name, I forgot, but it's allowed to do that. Partnered with partner. I don't know if it's called grant, it has another name.
Okay.
But it's kind of the concept is that like that, you know what I mean? It's
Got it.
So I don't know, that one was another, I talked to Dave Cady, the owner of, the founder of Little John's. And also Little John is also providing food to our senior center for our seniors too. So I think it will be a very good partnership and also investment that the city is also helping this organization in the food insecurity, you know, so.
Got it. So just as a summary, I have as potential amendments, adding gray fields to the planning for growth and increasing the budget, food insecurity, and then you had 2 additional ones. Do you want to sum them up?
Yeah, one is add funding to the hub, allocate some funding to the hub, will be to the all wheels truck, you know, to build that, or to cover the covered area, right? What do you call that area? Yeah. And then the other is to allocate some funding for 23, 24, and 25 to the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Grant Program, around $50,000 in each year, additional.
Julia, did you also, I think I wrote down, you brought up investing in looking at Nine Springs Golf Course and doing winter activities?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that too. I guess one thing that I would add, I feel like Fitchburg is typically forward thinking about like addressing sustainability and the climate, but 300,000 seems a little, I think that was the number that it was allocated. Seems a little low for that too. So I would advocate that we could allocate more towards sustainability initiatives.
And just one thought for consideration, the committee may want to, we do have like a resource conservation commission. So the committee may want to just consider, you know, kind of staying true to your scope.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But again, I'm open to whatever you guys want to do, but just something to consider.
Katie, you can email Alder Gabriela Herhard. She's in the she's very involved with the whole initiative about sustainability, and she's part of that group. So
Okay.
so maybe you can email her, and you know, as a resident, that you want to see more in, you know, more money going to that initiative.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And then in terms of hub funding, like I'm very much in support of it. I was thinking, since it sounds like we'll get the multi-use track funded by outside, like Dane County, and then potentially the private investments, maybe we ask for the covered area as a way.
And just to clarify, I think again, don't quote me on this, but I think the current budget for the pump track is like 450.
Oh, okay.
The money we would hopefully get is like half of that.
Oh, okay.
So,
Never
to
mind then.
clarify.
Yeah. Okay. So what do people think? Do we feel overall good about all of the potential amendments? And do we want to make a motion to that? Do we want to potentially do like have a vote on each? Ryan?
I'm fully on board with all the amendments.
I am too.
So then do we have to name all the amendments when we make the motion?
Could I ask a couple questions before you guys get to that point? So just to be clear, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but obviously when things get added to a proposal, things will have to come out. So, you know, there will be at some point, you know, as Julia clarifies things based on your direction.
No, we cannot. No? We cannot take money out. We can add stuff, and then it's going to be a priority thing, you know. So if the council.
But I mean, if you come up with an amendment, you don't have to subtract anything in your amendment.
No, for this process, no.
Okay. Okay, never mind then. And then just so I'm clear, so I heard all wheels track for the hub. I heard winter activities at 9, spring at the hub, let's just call it. I heard HNI grant monies, 23 through 25, $50,000-ish. I heard a support for Little John's food security. And I heard Grayfield planning. Is that everything?
And then also hub support for the covered area.
Okay. Yeah. And then just to clarify, do we, I mean, the Grayfield development, I mean, do we want to call out specific areas for planning?
Do we want to call out like all HNI neighborhoods plus Southdale?
So just some context, I think,
yeah.
So the North Fish Hatchery Road neighborhood, let's start there. There was what was called I don't know what the final word, what it was termed as, but we spent about 10 grand, I think, or maybe more, to hire a consultant to come up with like a vision for I mean, it was called a vision document.
Right.
So just so people know that we did that up there. Again, that wasn't maybe a full plan, but it was similar.
Okay.
In the Verona Road area, we did the Anton Drive redevelopment plan, which didn't cover the whole neighborhood, but it covered a pretty good chunk of it.
Okay.
That's a relatively new document. And then in the Belmar area, you know, kind of the third priority neighborhood, I just don't, from a planning perspective,
there's not that much space.
No,
right?
and usually when you talk about redevelopment, there's commercial,
right,
industrial lands, and that neighborhood doesn't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might not be a good fit either. Southdale, I think that could be an option. I don't know.
Okay.
I think town or City of Madison might have done a plan up there recently, but I'm not quite sure on how old it is. But I just want to maybe
Yeah, well, if,
I can get some detail on that, that might be helpful.
yeah. Well, wait, also, if you don't think that we need it,
Guys, 1 second. I need to go to another meeting that they're calling me to go. So can you send me an email with all the amendments?
And just to be clear, I think that the action will be to approve the amendments in concept, and then you will write them out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So I don't know, do you need my, I will lose in quorum if I leave?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to vote.
Okay, yeah, so maybe we
okay.
can expedite things, yeah.
All right. So wait, quick question. Do you think we need Greenfield, or sorry, Grayfield added or no?
I think at this
It
point in
kind of
time,
sounds like no.
No, I think it's.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
skip it then. All right, so does someone want to motion to approve as outlined by staff?
I will. That's easy. That's a good one. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as outlined by city staff.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? And I should say aye. Too.
Okay, thank you guys. I had to go, okay?
All right.
And then I think, just as long as we're here, I guess we have to adjourn, but I just would like some feedback on, generally speaking, as committees, we have set dates and times over the year, you know, like the first Wednesday at 4 or whatever it might be. And so I think we'll have to kind of decide that.
Right.
We're allocated for eight meetings a year. We're not going to need that. I envision more like 4 to 6. But I guess part of the equation here too is we have to work with our TV people. They're great to record all our city meetings, and they've got a lot going on. So they did throw out some free dates and times where we could fit our regular meetings into.
Right.
And so I'm just going to throw them out there. And if folks can give me some general feedback, you know, I can maybe send out an email with the next committee meeting date. But the kind of the dates I was given is the first Tuesday of the month, basically after 12 p.m. until whenever is reasonable for you guys. The second or the first Wednesday of the month after 12 p.m. And then the fourth Wednesday of the month from 4 to 6-ish p.m. And I don't know if Scott's, our TV guy's listening in on that, if he can confirm those dates, but if Scott, if I got everything right.
Yes, you did.
Okay. So the first impressions of those, and again, what I'm envisioning in terms of how this committee is set up, I'm envisioning probably a early March meeting. And then let's say a March meeting, let's just say a November or December meeting, and then maybe a meeting or two sandwiched in between there as needed. But I think we'll definitely need a spring meeting. We'll definitely need a fall meeting to kind of do the grant stuff and then do our approval of our Navigator contract. And then again, I think the other meetings will probably be as needed. So again, of those kind of 3 options, are any of those off the table for people, or would they potentially work?
The Wednesday 4 to 6 is off the table for me. I can't do that one.
I usually have class on Monday afternoons. So that, I mean, beyond, I guess I could do Monday evening. And I also don't know my fall semester schedule, but I know it's pretty full. So I'm not sure if we could like set this schedule. Could it be, I don't know if it could be changed at all.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have to stick, once we get something set, we'll have to stick to it.
Okay.
And again, I think the option is, it sounds like Ryan can't do Wednesdays 4 to 6. So I think our options, and again, if we can't figure it out tonight, well, that's okay, but we'll need to, the options now are first Tuesday of the month after 12 p.m. or first Wednesday of the month after 12 p.m.
Yeah.
I can't do Tuesday.
Can't do Tuesday. No.
What about Wednesday during the day? Is that an option at this point?
That's a little bit more tricky for me. So yeah, I think.
Would it be
you know,
helpful?
potentially I could
Oh,
do it. It just,
sorry.
yeah. Or
Would it be
Katie?
helpful? I'm definitely more of a visual person. Would it be helpful to send out a doodle poll again?
Yeah, I guess the gist of it is we have to work with our TV people too. So the options I'm get, Scott, I mean, we can maybe talk offline a little bit more if there's some other options, but I guess the gist of it is we're not gonna have a whole lot of options. You know, probably just a handful. And certainly if folks have to miss a meeting or two, that's understandable, but yeah, we'd like to find something that, you know, most folks can meet most of the time.
Can I refrain or not refrain, revise? So Tuesday I have class until like 3-ish. So I could potentially do Tuesday evenings, like after that.
I could do Tuesday
I
evening.
can do Tuesday.
Okay. And I don't think Julie would have any other city meetings that night. Any ideas on what's a good time? And again, I don't think most meetings will not be this long. I think an hour and a half to 2 is probably a normal meeting scope.
Okay.
Any thoughts on start times?
I mean, ideally for me, after 5 is great. That said, I do have some flexibility.
I can do that after 5.
Me too.
5, 5:36, what do people like?
5:30 is great. 6.
30.
5:30.
So as of now, we're thinking 5:30 on did we say the first Tuesday of the month?
First Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what that means again would be our next meeting would be actually I'm just trying to work out in my head processes. I think we probably could wait till April for our next, because then I'll have to, you guys will have everything. That'll be our grant recommendation meeting. So let's just pencil in April
5th.
5th at 5:30.
One thing, just to give you guys a heads up, my sister is supposed to have a baby around that time, so I may not be around.
Yep.
But if I can be
That's
here,
the
I
last
will.
excuse in the book, Emily. I can run
Yeah.
it.
We are, you know, I think we'll get another committee member in the next month, so hopefully quorums won't be issues. And, you know, people have to miss meetings, that's understandable. Just if you know you're gonna miss a meeting, just give me a heads up, you know, when you know. That
Yeah,
helps me
yeah,
out too. So, yep.
I'll definitely do.
All right.
All right. Did you have any announcements?
I don't. I think I'll let you guys go.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. All right.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.